Good afternoon, fellow Australian nationalists and others. I'm Jim Saleam, of course, from Australia First, and I'm speaking this afternoon with Mr. Gavrilidis, the International Liaison Officer, as I understand it, for the Greek Nationalist Party, Golden Dawn. Good afternoon, Iggy.
Howdy, Jim. Good afternoon.
Indeed so. Well, let's get into some business for our listeners, etc. today. Once again, we seem to have some people who are actually imagining that Golden Dawn is actually banned in Greece. Can you just clarify that again so people understand the situation?
Okay. Look, events are actually unfolding, and it's becoming more and more complex. If it's hard for others to comprehend beyond the international community to understand what's happening in Greece, it's confusing within Greece itself. Golden Dawn has been, they've been persecuted, and they've been trying to ensure that they are knocked out of the race or knocked out of contention for the elections. And more or less, they are trying to ensure that Golden Dawn has no possibility of returning and making itself available to voters. Golden Dawn has not been banned. Golden Dawn is not an illegal entity. It's a registered political party, just like any other party in Greece. Although they are developing certain mandates, and most recently they are attempting to alter by making amendments in the Constitution by banning people that have had virtually trumped up convictions against them and preventing them from participating in up and coming elections in Greece.
Right. Now, as I understand it, there was, of course, the very long criminal process. In fact, it was the process that was criminal against Golden Dawn that operated, and they proclaimed the leadership to be a criminal organisation. Now, is that where the confusion comes in? People are confusing Golden Dawn is regarded as a criminal organisation, and criminal organisations say if you or me got together now to conspire to carry out some offence, we're engaged in criminal organisation. So it's a matter of confusion, the terms. As I understand it, the 13 main leaders of Golden Dawn were proclaimed effectively organised criminals. That's what the Greek court said, was it not?
Correct. That's right.
Right. And that's the thing now that's being used with these new proposals to suggest that Golden Dawn as a lawful party is somehow or other tainted by these people who are the criminal organisation. Is that how the BS works?
Well, they're proclaiming that, the fact that these individuals have got convictions against them, they're trying to proclaim that they are criminals. And considering that they are complicating things by not being able to sort of make things transparent and clear to the public, that because they're convictions, they haven't been exactly sentenced as well.
Just to clarify this new law that's being proposed, has it actually been passed yet in the Greek Parliament?
It has been passed. The amendment of the Constitution has been voted in favour, and the Constitution, based on the Constitution of Greece, that amendment is not cannot be constituted. It goes against the democratic process that Greece has founded. So, it goes it's completely it's a form of political coup against the people of Greece. To give you a brief understanding, they're not utilizing tanks. All they're doing is making one political party or a few political parties. They're expelling them from providing the right to citizens to vote a party of their preference, if that makes sense.
It does. Without just playing devil's advocate for a moment, in theory, that could even affect the Communist Party of Greece, couldn't it?
Absolutely, and this is where our argument comes in place as well, because the Communist Party, I mean, they've committed a lot of serious crimes. They committed horrendous crimes, and they haven't got exactly a clean record. Although, they have, based on the Constitution that has given them rights to run and be present in the political arena of Greece. So it doesn't make sense. On one hand, you've got criminals, individuals that have got a history of a lot more severe acts of crime, and to allow them to be available and an option to voters, it just doesn't make sense.
The law, so we can finalise it. The law says too that, okay, you've got these so-called criminals at the top of Golden Dawn, but for the sake of argument, if you're a friend of those criminals or an associate with these criminals, you can't run for parliament either. Is that the interpretation?
I'm not exactly, I cannot exactly confirm on that, but if you have been associated or you had a conviction, in the past by being involved with Golden Dawn, you cannot establish another political party and decide I'm going to run, and make an effort or to take the opportunity to run at the elections. So the amendment is specifically designed for Golden Dawn former MPs or anyone that has virtually come about from the roots of and the foundations of Golden Dawn. So it's a specific target against nationalists. So even that you've got some political parties that have offshooted from Golden Dawn, it would apply to them as well, that they won't be able to partake at the elections or even actually partake in the Hellenic Parliament if they get elected. So it's getting it's getting a bit deep and messy to a point where, in a nutshell, you've got approximately 500,000 to 600,000 nationalists that are being railroaded into voting for a so-called conservative right-wing political party, which more or less is a puppet party of the state. Or
in Greece, of course, it's not compulsory to vote. Would that be that perhaps a lot of those people would deliberately abstain from voting as a protest against the undemocratic nature of this change?
I would say very likely that will occur. It makes sense to a lot of nationalists if the fact that they're not being given the option to vote for a particular party of their choice, they will abstain.
Right. So basically, Golden Dawn, does it plan to attempt to participate in the next Greek election, or members plan?
As mentioned before and previously, Jim, with the fact that we've got the leader incarcerated and he's taken more or less a step back, you've got an administrating committee that is more or less assessing whether we will run at the elections or not. They're doing a lot of groundwork. to ensure that Golden Dawn is going to exist beyond these elections. Now, whether we run at these elections, which I quite likely doubt it, they will be establishing foundations to ensure that we will exist beyond these elections. These elections are quite crucial, extremely crucial, based on mandates from beyond the borders of Greece. Just like the elections in Turkey are quite significant for for certain parties beyond the borders. So there's a lot happening on a global scale where elections are being interfered with, and we're quite familiar with that because in the 2019 elections, it's renowned that Israelis have meddled in the elections in 2019 in Greece, and very likely they will be meddling in the elections, in the up and coming elections as well. We're seeing a lot of puppet parties propping up, and it clearly shows that these parties are nothing other than parties that are there to absorb the votes from Golden Dawn and other nationalist parties that have been affected due to the implications with Golden Dawn or their involvement with Golden Dawn. Now, you've got Hellenic Solution, and you've got another gentleman by the name of Konstantinos Bogdanos. He is nothing but a puppet, playing it far right or playing it right wing and ultra conservative right, where in fact he's nothing but a stooge to absorb votes.
When you mentioned before, obviously there are some groups that seem to have arisen out of Golden Dawn. I think, speaking from the outside, the terrible pressures that were put upon Golden Dawn during the trial, it's probably not surprising that there was a little bit of fragmentation there. It's understandable, but do you think that Golden Dawn ultimately will be able to reassemble these groups, bring them all back together into a single formation?
With time, Jim, I feel that with time and with restructure, Golden Dawn will be present. You cannot eradicate, you cannot dissolve a movement, an ideology which Golden Dawn reflects. Golden Dawn will be very solid in the future, and will be partaking. A lot of people that have hoped that, and they moved away from Golden Dawn. Many will return. A lot will be proven, and action speaks louder than words. A lot of people tend to pursue a seat in Parliament because €8,000 a month is quite a reward for a comfortable seat in Parliament. A lot of people, when they see that it's all about having a seat, they'll be returning to support a movement like Golden Dawn. Because for Golden Dawn, it's never been about having a seat in Parliament. It's about battling and fighting for national interests and the interests of the people and the well-being of the people.
On just to go forward one moment on the purely electoral side of things, this new rule in Greece banning people with criminal histories or whatever, that doesn't operate at the European parliamentary election level, does it?
Jimmy, it doesn't. It doesn't, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Europeans decide in Brussels to more or less implement some form of similar amendment that will virtually prevent any nationalist, or whether you want to call them far right or call them extreme or ultra, they will be more or less excluding nationalist movements within Europe as well. It would not faze me at all.
When we spoke last, you mentioned that there were threats of bannings and restrictions on a number of movements. I spoke recently with the Vice President of the Alliance for Peace and Freedom, Nick Griffin, and Nick said that he had information that in Spain there may be an attempt to ban the Nationalist Party, National Democracy, even though he said there's not even an excuse for it. Obviously, Golden Dawn, there was an alleged excuse. But in the case of that party, there is no excuse. It's simply a party operating lawfully in the community. Have you heard similar things like that across the European face?
Well, France, very similar action has been occurring in France, where they've actually disbanded the Group Union in 2017. 2019 as well, they more or less banned. They've knocked out. They've created a right-wing movement, Basham Frontal, and they've been disbanded and banned by court order in 2019. In Austria, there's similar persecution as well. They are, they're virtually hounding down right-wing movements. And I believe Germany as well. But there's a lot that's happening within Europe, and you can see that at a European level as well. They're trying to eradicate. There's a massive fight against nationalists, more or less.
Do you think that that's partly related to the NATO war in Ukraine?
Absolutely. It's got. I think it's got. It goes beyond that. It goes. He goes a lot more deeper than that. I think it's a matter of having the Europe of nations controlled, or virtually prevent the Europe of nations having an independence, or a Europe that can actually vouch for itself and think for itself. There's a lot of question marks. Why the UK have decided to move out of the European Union? I think there's a lot that goes a lot more deeper than just political events that are actually occurring around Europe. Europe is being controlled. From my observation, it's being controlled and being taken for a ride.
Without necessarily going into precise details, you were appointed by Golden Dawn to handle international liaison. Have you found the various movements of nationalism in various countries are receptive to Golden Dawn?
There's throughout Europe, we are affiliated with certain movements. We keep things for purposes that we prefer not to elaborate who we communicate with. There's some very strong support, and it's vice versa as well. We are enlightening, just as we were the beacon going back 12 years ago, and we were pre-warning our European counterparts with what's happening in regards to the immigration laws and the corruption. Very similar is happening at the moment. We are enlightening, and we are sharing thoughts and information throughout Europe. Quite surprisingly, up north, up north of Europe, the Nordics, they're quite concerned with what's actually happening on overall. The war in Ukraine is going to have a nasty effect on the Europeans, and especially up north of Europe as well. But we can only hope that things don't get uglier, or don't get the conflict is contained within that specific area. But it seems like certain individuals and we know that Joe Biden and certain deep state individuals are trying to exacerbate the fire, and instead of putting water over the fire, they're fuel. And when you tend to fuel and play with fire, be prepared to get burnt as well.
I noticed the Greek commemorations for the EMIR incident actually drew participation from other nationalists in Europe and elsewhere. Was that a positive sign of things to come for Golden Dawn?
It's a sign, it's a sign that we're not giving up the fight. It's a sign that Golden Dawn is going to be around. It's also, and it's and we're giving our nationalist brethren in other parts of Europe a bit of courage to keep up the fight.
I understand.
Golden Dawn certainly is. Golden Dawn isn't going anywhere. There's extremely challenging moments in Greece at the moment, and they're going to become even more challenging in the near future.
Is there any truth that some of the Golden Dawn leaders may be soon released from custody?
Well, the period which they can actually retain them is coming to maturity. So I think they've got till October the latest, and beyond then they've got no option but to release them.
And the General Secretary of Golden Dawn?
We hope so as well.
I've reached the end of the questions that I'd like to put to you this afternoon. Is there anything further you'd like to add on Golden Dawn and its activities?
Look, Golden Dawn will be always observing very closely. The amendments that they're making with the Constitution will be legally challenged, and not necessarily only from Golden Dawn, by other vested parties as well, because it's unethical and illegal, and it's not appropriate to remove the rights of one individual to vote and railroad them to vote political parties which aren't of their preference. Golden Dawn will be assessing and monitoring all these corrupt politicians that tend to swindle laws in place which conflicts with the democratic rights of the citizens of Greece.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Iggy, for speaking with us this afternoon. As you know,
it's a pleasure.
As you know, Golden Dawn always has the solidarity of Australia First, and when we get our party registration back federally, you can always add us to the
we're in the same boat, Jim, and it's understandable, and it's only going to, as you're quite aware, it's happening as well in Europe as well, but we don't take it lying down.
Okay, thank you very much.
On that note, keep up the fight, and we'll talk soon.
No worries, mate. Thank you.